Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Thursday, July 7th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Big events and big concerns as over the next few weeks, San Diego plays host to major events like Pride and Comic-Con. And for law enforcement, the coming weeks present a huge challenge: how to keep people safe. Our John Carroll says San Diego police insist they're ready.
When it comes to reasons to be worried over the coming weeks, local law enforcement can take its pick. Fresh in everyone's mind, the brutal, deadly attack on 4th of July parade goers in Highland Park, Illinois. And in June, Pride Month, a number of disturbing incidents, including what appeared to be a sizable planned attack on a Pride event in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, stopped by police at the last minute.
Safety is our #1 concern for the San Diego Police Department.
In the shadow of Hillcrest's massive pride flag, a note of reassurance from San Diego Police. Lieutenant Jonathan Lowe talking about security preparations for San Diego Pride next week and Comic-Con a week later.
So we're going to have uniformed officers and non-uniformed officers in the crowd, always watching over the parade route, the festival, and the associated parties around Hillcrest. Same goes for Comic-Con as well.
In the case of Pride, San Diego police are getting some extra help from the Hillcrest Business Association. The owner of Rich's Nightclub sits on the association board. He says he and his fellow Hillcrest business owners have been talking recently about how to make sure security this year is tighter than ever.
Our exits are clear, properly well lit. Our security staff is on point. We have extra security guards. They're trained. So those are all things that we've always taken into consideration, but obviously more so on Pride weekend.
Security of big events came up this week when San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria appeared on KPBS Midday Edition.
It is frustrating to have this threat of violence across the nation impacting this event.
But Gloria says he's confident in law enforcement's ability to keep people safe.
I have full faith in our San Diego Police Department as well as our regional law enforcement partners.
But even with all the reassuring words, there is still that nagging reality that a person with a gun determined to cause mayhem and violence can. That's why the words that came into our lexicon after 9/11 still ring true today. If you see something, say something. John Carroll, KPBS News.
The U.S. Embassy in Mexico issued a travel advisory for Tijuana and Rosarito. KPBS border reporter Gustavo Solis explains what the risk is and how travel groups are reacting to the news.
There were 1,972 murders in Tijuana last year, and that violence continues. The problem has gotten so out of hand that the federal government deployed the Mexican military to Baja California. Army General Saul Luna says that rival cartels are behind the bloodshed.
El cártel de Jalisco, el cártel de Sinaloa, la parte del cártel de los Arellanos, que entre los tres están peleando el vender la droga.
He says 3 cartels, the Jalisco New Generation, the Sinaloa cartel, and remnants of the Arellano Felix cartel are all fighting for control of the drug trade. The travel advisory says Americans should reconsider going to Tijuana or Rosarito because of potential confrontations between these 3 cartels. Carol Kramer runs the Discover Baja Travel Club. She says violence is mostly limited to people connected to organized crime, not the tourists. Kramer says that violence in Baja is not as random as some places in the U.S.
Unlike here in this country where you're afraid to go to a parade or even send your children to school because of mass shootings, that isn't happening in Baja. It's the cartels going after each other, and those are the deaths.
Kramer recommends that people should take common sense precautions while traveling in Mexico.
As a traveler, or you just need to do precautions. You know, you're careful about where you are. You're alert as you're traveling. You don't drink excessively, so you don't know what's happening around you.
Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
At least 26 states in the U.S. have either restricted or banned access to abortion following the Supreme Court's decision on Roe v. Wade. Now, as predicted, our region is seeing an influx of patients. Planned Parenthood of the Pacific Southwest says there has been a 31% increase in the number of out-of-state patients. The biggest increase is patients from Arizona, which is a near 100% jump.
Fortunately, we were very prepared for this, and so we were able to rapidly increase the amount of services we were offering. So our wait time for abortion appointments has not changed, and we are actually offering appointments more days of the week now so that patients can get access.
Planned Parenthood clinics in Orange and San Bernardino counties are reporting a 900% increase in out-of-state abortion patients. Some are raising concerns that fertility apps and Google searches could be used against people seeking abortions. Coming up on Evening Edition, how companies are responding. San Diego's tourism engine is revving up, but local officials say the region is still sputtering because it has a pandemic hangover. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson has details.
The region's tourism economy had a nice bounce back last year after the pandemic roiled the service economy in 2020. The San Diego Tourism Authority's Julie Coker says the region is doing better than other tourist destinations, both in California and the rest of the country. She credits San Diego's high vaccination rate as one reason visitors are returning.
There were a total of close to 24 million visitors that came to San Diego. And we were very excited about that because it was 61% over 2020. However, it was still down 32% to 2019.
The returning travelers also helped bring back tourism jobs, with 195,000 people working in the visitor sector in 2021. That's just 14,000 jobs short of pre-pandemic levels. Tourism spending hit $7.4 billion in 2021. The city's mayor says that's crucial.
Not just for the downtown businesses that serve the conventioneers and the tens of thousands of folks who work at our hotels who got their jobs back after the pandemic. It's also a big deal for every San Diegan because the hotel room taxes that these folks generate make up a healthy portion of our city's budget.
Gloria hailed the return of Pride Week and Comic-Con this year as well-known signature events that encourage people to come to San Diego and spend money. Both events were suspended during the pandemic. Gloria says San Diego is a welcoming city, and he looks forward to greeting visiting crowds. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
Chula Vista preparing for a busy day tomorrow in its iconic downtown area. Hundreds of people are expected to turn out to a free block party on 3rd Avenue between E Street and Parkway. The fun will include vendors, live music, lowrider cars, and the recognition of individuals the city is calling Chula Vista champions. This is the first big event the city has hosted since the start of the pandemic.
We really wanted to bring back the community, bring back the businesses, and support them as we make our way out of this pandemic. So this was a great opportunity to kick off the summer and celebrate with our local businesses.
Over 100 businesses will be participating in the block party. The Padres will also be joining in on the fun, showing off their new City Connect jerseys and hosting a game watch party. The event kicks off at 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. New details keep emerging about the suspect in the July 4th parade shooting in Illinois. He has now reportedly confessed, and this comes as the community in Highland Park mourns the victims. The latest now from reporter Isabel Rosales.
Emerging new details about the confessed killer, pointing to warning signs potentially missed, including threatening online posts. Plus, police records reveal he threatened his family, and there were fears for his safety and that of others.
My community is in absolute despair, grieving, feeling unspeakable pain.
In an interview with the New York Post, the alleged shooter's father insists he didn't do anything wrong, despite signing off on a form that allowed his son to buy the very gun used in the shooting.
He showed no aggression to me or nothing, ever. There's no indications of nothing that I saw that would lead me to withdraw this.
Yellow police tape still stands along the heart of Highland Park, where mourners pay their respect. The loved ones of survivors sharing the moments before the unthinkable happened at the July 4th parade.
They wanted to be there specifically so that when I passed by in the parade, I would be able to find them there. So that's why they were sitting where they were, right across from the shooter.
Funerals for the victims begin Friday as a community grapples with how to move forward.
I think it's really shaken a lot of people up. It's hard to say how we'll be in, a year, but for right now, definitely it's scary to even think about going back.
Isabel Rosales, KPBS News.
Derek Chauvin was sentenced today to 21 years in prison for violating George Floyd's civil rights. That's on the low end of the 20 to 25 years called for in a plea agreement. The former Minneapolis police officer will serve the federal sentence at the same time as his 22.5-year state sentence on murder and manslaughter charges. WNBA star Brittany Griner today pleaded guilty to drug possession charges on the second day of her trial in Russia. The charges carry a sentence of up to 10 years in prison. Griner has been detained in Russia for nearly 5 months after police said they found vape canisters containing cannabis oil in her luggage at the Moscow airport. Calls are growing louder for Washington to secure her freedom. Last night, supporters gathered in Phoenix for a rally where Griner's wife spoke.
I'm frustrated that 140 days have passed since my wife has been able to speak to me, to our family, and to her friends. I'm frustrated that my wife is not going to get justice.
Griner's guilty plea came a day after President Biden called her wife Sherelle and told her he is working to free her as soon as possible. The death of a Navy SEAL candidate in February is raising questions about the safety of basic training. Kyle Mullen died of pneumonia just after so-called Hell Week at the SEALs boot camp in Coronado. His family recently released an autopsy that concluded he received inadequate medical care even though he was seriously ill. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh has the story.
He said you're supposed to do land.
Regina Mullen says she trusted the SEALs with her son Kyle's life, and they failed him.
They're torturing our men. You can't do that to prisoners of war. There's war crimes, and they're doing it to our own athletic, young, bright men that are willing to give up their lives to serve the country. They're torturing them. It's not training.
Mullen had played football at Yale and Monmouth University. He died February 4th, hours after finishing Hell Week. The endurance test is part of the notoriously difficult SEAL basic training. The autopsy confirms her son was left alone in the barracks with other candidates who had also showed signs of being sick. Kyle Mullen was found unresponsive on the barracks floor after another candidate called for medical help for himself.
Severe pneumonia. There's no way a 23-year-old healthy boy should die of severe pneumonia. And that's a disgrace that he was not treated for days. They knew he had it.
He was found with a 36-ounce bottle filled with his own blood and mucus. The autopsy revealed Mullen died of Streptococcus pyogenes, a type of pneumonia often associated with military bases. Regina Mullen is a registered nurse. She says her son was struggling to breathe when he called her a few hours before he died.
You all knew that my son was compromised. The medical team, the instructors, the lieutenant, the commander had to have known. They were all standing where he was secured, seeing the guy spitting up blood. You sent him to the barracks, sent the medical team home, and you let him die.
Hell Week is virtually unchanged since at least the 1970s. For nearly a week, candidates are submerged in the Pacific Ocean, forced to continually swim or march with boats on their back. They get little sleep. Some SEALs say by the end they were hallucinating. Regina Mullen says her son was told he could get medical help if he rang a bell 3 times. But that was also the signal that he wanted to give up.
It's where you have to ring a bell, and then they'll give you medical. And ringing the bell is quitting.
That is a game that the instructors play. That's absolutely true that they say stuff like that. It is not absolute. It is absolutely untrue that they meant it.
Robert Adams is a medical doctor and former SEAL. He wrote a book about Hell Week. Adams says medical teams are there to monitor candidates, at least during the exercise.
I've, over the years followed SEAL training as a physician looking back and seen numerous reports of pneumonia, usually in somebody that's pulled out of Hell Week and told you can't go on, and they're screaming, please don't pull me.
If they don't continue, candidates either leave or they can be rolled back to try again with a later class. Mullen had already been rolled back once. Regina Mullen says SEALs told her that instructors liked Kyle and they pushed him to finish the last couple of days. But she says candidates shouldn't have to decide if they can do it.
They probably don't even know what day of the week it is. They're probably delirious, altered mental status. How could you expect them to make that decision knowing what their medical condition is?
The U.S. military often talks about training like you fight. Hell Week is more of a test of physical and psychological endurance. Instructors try to push candidates past what they think are their limits. Jeff Butler is a former SEAL.
Really, the goal of it is to weed out people that aren't going to just have the mental fortitude to not quit when it gets absolutely terrible. I mean, guys that will go until they have literally life-threatening pneumonia.
Butler's father was also a SEAL. While warfare has changed dramatically over the decades, Hell Week hasn't.
It's a ritual to see who gets to be part of their organization. I'm sure that's how they see it. They're consider themselves gatekeepers of who is good enough to be in the community. That's how the instructors often saw themselves.
Secretary of the Navy Carlos Del Toro told Congress in May that after Mullen's death, the SEALs now have medical staff available instead of just on call after Hell Week. His mother says that's not enough. She says they need an outside investigation. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
More than 1,600 pounds of trash was picked up by volunteers at 7 popular beaches the day after 4th of July. The Surfrider Foundation San Diego released the total weights of trash collected at each site. Ocean Beach, Dog Beach had the biggest haul by far with 735 pounds. The most common items found were single-use plastics.
Well, our gradual warming trend that we've been experiencing does continue, and that lasts all the way through the weekend. Near and along the immediate coast, we are going to remain on the cool side, and we're still going to be dealing with some evening and morning clouds, possibly some fog across the areas, though I do think the marine layer will thin out a little bit, so the clouds won't work their way as further inland, which could lead to some cooler nights for some. You're looking at 63, but you will have some increasing clouds across the metro area. And as we take a look across San Diego County in general, Ramona dipping down to 56, Escondido into the 60s, right along with Oceanside, Chula Vista 63, El Cajon 64, Borrego Springs, you'll be about 74, and Mount Laguna cooling down to the 50s overnight. Let's talk about how the monsoon is going to be suppressed here. Basically just going to be across areas like New Mexico, Albuquerque. You'll be seeing some of those spotty showers and storms. Meanwhile, hot conditions kind of brewing across the Four Corners and across the Great Basin. We know it's been generally dry and just seasonably hot, but again, comfortable at the coast. So Oceanside 75, San Diego 73, Chula Vista, you've been in the 70s, more interior, Ramona getting up to 90, El Cajon into the double eights there in Borrego Springs 109. There's that climb as well in Borrego Springs of temperatures. All right, so you have the morning clouds. They do kind of dissipate and fade away during the day. They might return just slightly into those evening hours. By Saturday, though, it's building heat once again. You got to go to the coast if you want to go find some comfortable weather. So let's talk about those temperatures at the coast. You can find that you have a little bit of a warming trend even at the coast, but still, you start off your day with some fog to some sunshine on Sunday, and then you go to a cooling trend once again into next week. Inland, you have that warming trend as well, but you're back to cooler temperatures even as we look to next week as well. And across the mountains, steady as it goes, right on with the lower 80s with plenty of sunshine. But it is going to be brutally hot here across the desert with temperatures around 113 plus starting on Saturday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Michelle Rotella.
In the wake of the overturning Roe v. Wade, some fear technology could be used to track pregnancies. As Vanessa Yurkovich reports, experts warn that data collected from fertility apps and Google searches could be used to prosecute abortion.
Any data related to reproduction is profitable.
Our data is everywhere, and it's for sale. Now that Roe versus Wade is overturned, law enforcement could use a woman's personal data to bring criminal charges if they suspect she's received an illegal abortion.
There is no difference in the data from your reproductive choices than the pair of shoes you looked at online. It's treated exactly the same in the law right now, and that's what the problem is.
As states tighten their abortion laws, prosecutors could go after people seeking an abortion or those helping them by subpoenaing data linked on fertility apps, period trackers, and on internet searches. Companies currently sell that kind of data mainly to advertisers because it's profitable.
Data brokers, law enforcement buy information from them all of the time. It could be used to incriminate us for women and girls who obtain abortions in violation of state laws. And it can be used to land people in jail.
Fertility and period tracking apps have some of the most sensitive reproductive information. But since Roe versus Wade was overturned, Flow, a period tracking app which says they have 240 million users, announced an anonymous mode where users will be able to limit their personal information. But members are encouraged to reach out to the company if they want their historical data removed. How can you fully protect against a member's data not being revealed?
We are making sure that our anonymous mode at Natural Cycles will be impossible for us to connect the personal data and the sensitive data.
Alina Berglund-Sherwitzel is the co-founder of Natural Cycles. Who has access to that key that could only connect the data?
Only the user.
Natural Cycles is a subscription FDA-approved birth control app that also helps those who want to get pregnant.
We have very sensitive data on unintended pregnancies, but we are very much in control of that analysis and of that data.
CNN reached out to nearly a dozen big tech companies about how they would handle data requests through subpoenas and warrants from law enforcement targeting abortion seekers. Some did not respond at all or directly to the question. Apple responded saying health data is encrypted when two-factor authentication is enabled. While Meta says, quote, we comply with government requests for user information only where we have a good faith belief that the law requires us to do so.
They could fight warrants in court, but if the warrants are upheld, they're going to be ordered to comply.
Some legal experts don't believe even anonymous mode data is fully protected and say the only way to fully protect privacy is through federal law limiting the data companies can collect, store, and sell.
There's a lot of panic right now, and I think rightfully so, about the feeling and the ability to trust and expect that the information about, most sensitive information about our bodies and our relationships and our health is ours.
And that was Vanessa Yurkovich reporting. Google recently announced it will automatically delete location history records that show whether a person has visited an abortion clinic or fertility center.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, Britain's Prime Minister Boris Johnson announces he will step down after a string of scandals. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
The war in Ukraine is prompting the San Diego Symphony to make some changes. Russian composer Tchaikovsky's 1812 Overture has been removed from an upcoming concert. The August 26th performance will still include other works by the composer. San Diego Symphony CEO Martha Gilmer said that the 1812 Overture was cut because it was written to celebrate Russian victory at war.
When you understand that this was commissioned to really showcase Russian imperialism and aggression, and that it is the canons of war, it feels to us highly inappropriate to perform it this year.
And in its place, the symphony will perform The Tempest, which was inspired by Shakespeare's play. New changes, a new name, and plenty of new excitement at the new Village Arts Center in Carlsbad. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne gives us a look inside.
Hit after hit. Sledgehammers broke into the walls of the new Village Arts Center in Carlsbad on Thursday. NVA held a groundbreaking event celebrating the renovation of the center. Christiane Kerner, the founder and executive artistic director for NVA, says the center will turn into a cultural gathering space for everyone in North County.
I wanted to create a new village for our community, a place where our community members could come together and experience adventurous art.
The transformation will create an open lobby space with a stage area for community events, galleries, and performances. There will also be an arts classroom for all ages. Carlsbad Mayor Matt Hall says the renovated center will be a focal point in the Carlsbad Village.
And just imagine no walls, just one open area. This in the future will literally become the center of the village.
And along with the renovation of the building comes a new name.
When the Dia Hurston New Village Arts Center reopens in December of this year, This will be a place where all members of our community are welcome to experience that adventurous art.
Dia Hurston has been a leader in the theater community and created opportunities for people of color.
And I Googled, what's a proper speech to give when a building is named in your honor? And Google said, I don't know.
She says she owed the honor to all of the volunteer work she has given over time.
Not my career as a teacher or the other million jobs that I had, but this is about my volunteerism in this community.
NBA says they will be the first art center in the country to be named after a Black woman in the past 50 years. During the renovation, NBA will still be holding performances at the Carlsbad Flower Fields. Visitors can enjoy Leonard Bernstein's New York at the Flower Fields from now until July 31st. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
Are you ready to see who's new at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park? I don't think you are. A North Island brown kiwi chick successfully hatched. A first for the park. Officials are calling it a conservation milestone because it brings valuable genetic diversity to the small brown kiwi population. And the little one is said to be doing quite well. Adorable. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.